What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So, turns out, not only do we have Google to check out later on today, tomorrow we're going to have another event, I guess I'll be streaming here, for a Nintendo Direct Indies showcase. And you're going to want to check this out because there could be some interesting things happening around this. Specifically, I noticed how long this is going to be in. I think it surprised myself and several other people as well. So we'll be talking a bit about that, and we're talking about some of the rumors that are flying around leading up to the Google stream that's going to take place. So it should be kind of interesting to see what happens later on today. Make sure you stop by because we'll be streaming it here and we can find out what Google's future of gaming looks like. As always, guys, enjoy these videos. Hit the like button. Really helps out. We're actually going to start today with an interesting mod about Ocarina of Time. Yeah, so Zelda Ocarina of Time, of course, you can play through an emulator on your computer with the Nintendo 64. And now people who mod these things are actually working out a way for you to play online co-op Ocarina of Time. It is absolutely insane. In fact, you're seeing a bit of a video here that was really cool. It was done by BSOD Gaming, or Blue Screen of Death Gaming, and it looks really, really cool. It's actually real time where you can have multiple people on screen at once. They're actually shooting for up to 15 people, I believe, and it's been in development for years now. And this could be one of the coolest mods that we've ever seen for something like an emulator with the Nintendo 64, as it really changes up the way you would play Ocarina of Time. If you have multiple people on screen at once in real time playing online for a game that is this old, it can just open up some pretty cool gameplay features and ideas going forward there. But they have no timetable on when it would be released as a mod that we can actually download and play. But seeing something like this years and years later after it's been released, and all of a sudden we can do co-op with our friends in Ocarina of Time, is pretty awesome. We also had Bethesda announce that they will be at E3. Surprise, I know, right? Most of us kind of expected that, and they actually put this tweet out here where they say, start speculating, refresh Walmart Canada, who is actually one of their best PR people, as they told us about all kinds of cool games ahead of time, including Rage 2, so that's pretty cool. Most importantly, save the date, BE3 is coming on Sunday, June 9th, 5:30 p.m. Pacific time. Of course, we'll be streaming that here during E3 week as we do all of the events. And more details, including registration, are coming soon. Can 10, we will be streaming the whole thing live, which is great. And then we also had a quick tweet, as we would expect, from Doom Eternal saying that they'll be there. So yeah, Doom Eternal, go figure. It's actually pretty funny to see Bethesda showing up there. I guess they'll do a live event, despite what happened with Fallout 76, so I'm sure there'll be some heckling. They'll probably make fun of themselves, as they usually do with, like, Todd Howard, for example, doing that, and Pete Hines. So don't worry, they'll lean into that. But, I mean, the fact that they'll show up live is, I mean, that's good at least. They're not going to hide from the crowd with Fallout 76, and maybe they'll have a roadmap or something new to show there for that. But most likely, it's going to be Starfield, as kind of the picture showed, a bunch of stars in the field and everything. It's probably going to be about Starfield. I think that's the next thing that they're going to have ready for launch. Hopefully they don't rush it, and hopefully it's not, I mean, it probably is. They're using their fairly broken engine. Hopefully it's just a bit more realized and ready to go than something like Fallout 76. But at least Doom Eternal, that's going to be awesome. I'm definitely looking forward to that. Also, we had another tease from Gearbox. They must be rolling into PAX East with all kinds of games. Now, to be fair, I think some of these are just ports to the Switch, which technically includes the one that I'm showing you now on their Twitter, which pretty much showed a picture of Duke Nukem, which got me kind of excited at first, but then I realized that this is a scene from Bulletstorm. Most likely that means that, yes, Bulletstorm is going to the Switch, which probably will also kind of go alongside of Borderlands 2, which is also probably being ported to the Switch. So not really the biggest fan of Bulletstorm, but hey, there you go. If you missed out on it, more than likely it's going to show up. I'll be curious if they take advantage of things like gyro controls or anything like that. But Bulletstorm, Borderlands 2, Borderlands 3, and then some other unannounced, maybe new games even, being shown there. Maybe they do something for VR even. Maybe that's what one of the other ones was. So yeah, it looks like at least Gearbox is showing up to PAX East in force, and we'll see what they have later on at the end of this month. And guys, some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff, and we're going to start with Google. They, of course, have their streaming event later on today. I believe it's 10 a.m. That's 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, and I'm going to be streaming it here, so if you're subscribed with the notification on, you should get alerted. You can stop by, and we can take a look, see what Google is ready to present to people at GDC, and a lot of people are expecting, at a minimum, a streaming service, right? A way to connect and play games without having necessary hardware right in front of you, most likely through your browser, your Chrome browser, or your phone, or apparently even your TV, your smart TVs. There you go. But we also expect some sort of hardware which would at the minimum be a controller, and it seems like people who are now at GDC are kind of looking around and they're realizing that Google is setting up a pretty serious setup there. So as you're seeing some pictures here, just as an example, actually from John Voorhees on Twitter, he does take a bunch of pictures of these empty spaces that were kind of like these little podiums covered in glass, and people were wondering if that means that they were going to be showing off some sort of hardware in those. Very possible. But later on in the day, we found out that they were seemingly setting up all of the older parts of gaming, so like Nintendo Power, NES, the Power Glove, a Dreamcast, and I think that's more or less to symbolize them going from where we started from to what they're going to show now, which probably is Project Stream, just because I think that's where the industry desperately wants gaming to go. They want us to be able to stream everything because then their pool of potential customers becomes very large, as you don't necessarily need to have a platform like an Xbox, a PlayStation, or even really a strong PC at all. You could use your phone, or of course your tablet, or your TV, or just in general a weaker computer, for example, or a very cheap box that is pretty easy to produce and put out there for a low cost of entry. That is the whole point of this. That's why people want Project Stream. Well, not really people, I would say people in these companies really want Project Stream to take off. Ubisoft is heavily on board. So it's not surprising to hear about that happening. And in fact, Kotaku even chimed in. Jason Schreier, on his way to GDC, talked a bit about it in an article. Now, Jason Schreier writes that the rumors they're hearing is all about a streaming platform that'll let you play pretty much on anything and everything. Of course, Android will be supported probably right out of the gate along with the Chrome browser. I think the Chrome browser is one of the best things they can build it into. And then they also talk about different ways that it could work, which sounded weird when I heard it at first, as it kind of mentions you watching a streamer, for example, and then it pops up and asks if you want to buy the game, and you can, and then you can join that streamer's game right away after you buy it, as long as it's okay with the streamer. And the first thing I thought is, oh wow, I'm sure so many streamers, especially the bigger ones, want you to be able to jump into their game. Of course, it also comes down to if the developer would allow that as well, and well, that's gonna be touch and go there, because what if they all just leave it unchecked? Then that whole feature is useless. If only like 10 games out of the hundreds or even thousands support it, it's a feature that's not really, as there's no real need of it even being there. Now, if it's a free-to-play game like an Apex Legends, that'd be kind of cool, because then you could just jump in and just start playing without having to need like a video card or anything like that. I get why they would do that, but the idea of a controller at least being there is something that Jason Schreier and Kotaku are on board with as well, but that's the kind of the extent of what they've heard. Something that is very interesting about this situation with Google is they really have not leaked much. I mean, really not much at all. We've heard that there are development kits, of course. We've talked about several things, including partnerships with Ubisoft, Sega. Apparently, id Software is going to be there today, and it seems like Google is setting up a lot for what would just be Project Stream. It's possible, yeah, that's all they're going to show, and honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if that is the only thing they show at GDC, but still, I would at least expect them to have some sort of controller there to try to sell as well, but we'll see. Either way, very interesting, and we'll find out this afternoon. Next up, let's talk about the UK sales charts. This is from the past week with The Division 2 launching, and people are very curious about these games as a service because it feels like there was a large spike in the beginning for them. People got really excited, and then honestly, some of the hype kind of fell off a bit. I think people are realizing that there's so many of them, to kind of keep up with all of them would be kind of impossible, and you got to pick one. So we're kind of running out of players for some of them. I think that's why the sales been down. But of course, you can also look at that and saying those are physical sales. And of course, if it's games as a service, you're probably going to buy it digitally, because what's on the disc anyway? If you're buying it and there's a 50 gigabyte patch, probably not a lot. So let's take a look at the top 10 on the UK sales charts in this past week, starting with The Division 2 at number 1, Red Dead Redemption 2 at 2, Grand Theft Auto 5 at 3, FIFA 19 at 4, The Lego Movie 2 at 5, Devil May Cry 5 at 6, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe at 7, Far Cry New Dawn at 8, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate at 9, and then we finish up with New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe. Now, The Division 2 actually sold 20% of what its predecessor sold. So that is a pretty large drop-off. However, we have to keep in mind these are physical sales, and of course something like say The Division 2 would probably be digital sales. And we're starting to learn as we get further along here that the UK sales charts are struggling to tell us much of anything with some of these sales. It really is, especially with everything seemingly dropping off massively. Now, this could also give us an idea as to where physical sales are actually stacking up to digital when we inevitably do find out how something like The Division 2 did, as I'm sure Ubisoft will eventually tell us, much like EA eventually told us how things like Battlefield 5 did, and that was massively down in the UK as well, and it didn't meet expectations. So I feel like we can, of course, draw at least a comparison here to the older ones, as The Division 1 didn't come out super long ago, right? It's not like way in the past. We're not talking about like last generation or anything for this. This is still fairly recent, so it's interesting to see it drop off down to 20% of its predecessor, but that could also just show that digital, it's kind of taken over physical. Next up, let's talk about the Nintendo Direct Indies event that's actually taking place on Wednesday. This is the tweet that Nintendo actually put out on Twitter. Tune in this Wednesday, March 20th at 9 a.m. Pacific time for a new Indie Showcase video presentation featuring about 30 minutes of information on indie games coming to Nintendo Switch. This is very surprising to me because it's 30 minutes. I think that's the longest we've seen for an indie showcase from Nintendo with these kind of direct formats where, of course, it's pre-recorded. They know it's basically 30 minutes, and to think about what they could show for 30 minutes, considering most of these indie events are pretty quick, right? Usually we get through them and it's like 10, 11, 12 minutes. What's the longest one we've had? Maybe 20? That felt long. So 30 minutes, what are they going to show here? Now, people are all over the place with predictions, and that's the fun part about these indie showcases. Maybe you're looking for the big, heavy-hitting stuff that would be in a regular direct. When we get to these indie events, it could be anything. There are so many indie games that this could be. Now, we know, of course, Behemoth is going to talk something about Castle Crashers or some kind of news today. It could just be for the PS4 version they've teased, and they could have something about Castle Crashers in the Direct tomorrow, which would make sense because, well, it's a good spotlight for it, right? Probably one of the best next to, I guess, their Twitter account. Just drop it in the Indies event, get people super hyped. Maybe even a shadow drop in the Indies event. That would be cool. The big question comes down to, is this where we find out a bit more about something like Ori or Cuphead? Because that is what I've seen everyone throw around. Is this finally the time that an Ori or Cuphead gets dropped on the Switch and really shows the relationship between Nintendo and Microsoft? And honestly, I'm not sure. It's very possible. I can tell you I've heard a lot about Ori going to the Switch. I think it's either getting announced before or at E3. And if it's before this, I mean, this could be it. I mean, technically people see Ori as like an indie style game, obviously, so yeah, I mean, people see Cuphead as that as well, and that would make some news, and this is the longest indie showcase that I've seen at 30 minutes. You feel like maybe they'd want to show that kind of stuff off if it happened, give those games a bit more spotlight. So we'll see. Shakedown Hawaii too, by the way. Let's get that in there. I'm curious about that. So either way, we're going to have some fun over the next few days. We got Google later on today, and then we got the Indie Showcase tomorrow at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific time. Let me know what games you want to see there because I think there's going to be an absolute ton. In our last bit of news, let's talk about Call of Duty on the go, but not the Vita version and not a Switch version. A cell phone version, because this was actually announced yesterday it seemed to be like during their GDC keynote or something they did. They put out that there will be Call of Duty Mobile, and it's going to be on phones, and it looks kind of similar to Black Ops when I was watching it being played in the trailer. I'm actually going to show you some of the trailer here, and they even put out a full press release. It's a free-to-play game that brings together maps, modes, weapons, and characters from across the Call of Duty franchise, including Black Ops and the Modern Warfare series. Probably why I noticed Black Ops, because it kind of, at least from the trailer, I noticed quite a bit of it. They're going to come together with Tencent, so not surprising there. Tencent's everywhere, by the way. And then they're actually going to have a beta that you can pre-register for that's going to be happening this summer. And people seem absolutely surprised by this. I don't necessarily, because Activision likes money. It's going to be free to play. It's going to be full of microtransactions. It's a place where no one complains about microtransactions. And they're going to be making it free to play, which honestly, I think we're getting to a point where some of these console games should just be free to play with the amount of microtransactions and loot boxes in them. But you go to the cell phone market and people just don't care, and you can make a ton of money off of whales and everything anyway. So they're going to hit a massive player base. I do question how something like a first-person shooter with Call of Duty is going to control with touchscreen controls. I don't know if it's going to be that good, but the fact that they are making it run, and it's running in Unity, by the way, it's kind of cool to see. And the fact that making it run there tells me that they would, I assume, have something ready for the Switch, for the people who keep asking. because if they go to the cell phone market and they just straight up jump over the Switch, a device that should be easier to move Call of Duty to than cell phones don't even have like actual controllers built onto it, that'd be tough for a lot of people to swallow there. So we'll see about that, but it going to cell phones makes sense, and I don't compare this, as some people do, I don't compare this something like the Diablo Immortal situation, as I see that brought up every time a cell phone game is announced from mainstream series. The reason the Diablo Immortal stuff was so bad is because they put it in front of people who just didn't care about it, and they showed up because they were fans of the PC games, some console games, but definitely PC games that they put out from Blizzard, and instead they got met with a cell phone game that none of them cared about, and nothing to do with PC, so, and a lot of them paid to be there. This was just something, press release, trailer, GDC with developers, and that was it. That's why these kind of things don't go over as bad as Diablo Immortal, so I assume Activision, Blizzard have learned that, and that's why this is the way it was. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit the like button, really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about today, whether it's Call of Duty Mobile. Maybe you're interested, but maybe you're also thinking, oh, maybe that means a Switch version of something. Maybe they'll port that to the Switch is actually going to come over. We'll see, because as far as I know now, we only have the one game, Blackout, Modern Warfare, or whatever. It's not a great game, but and then what do you think about Google streaming later on today? What are they going to show on their stream? And then what about the Nindy Showcase tomorrow? What do we have to look forward to? Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.